Hello everyone and welcome back to the sessions on financial reporting. Friends, in this class of financial reporting, we are continuing with the topic financial instrument, and this is the fifth lecture on financial instruments. Today we are going to talk about reclassification of financial asset, something very interesting and very important as well. So we have seen that there are three different classes of financial assets, or you can say three different categories of financial assets. That is, financial assets carried at amortized cost. Second, financial assets carried at fair value through other comprehensive income, in short FVTOCI category. And the third and last one, financial assets carried at fair value through P&L, that is FVTPL category. Now friends, the initial classification, how to make, what are the principles of classifying a financial asset into one of these three categories, we have learned that in the previous class. The point now what I am going to discuss is, when you have already classified a financial asset into one particular category, because of certain changes in the situations later on, there may be a possibility of reclassification from one category to another category. So other than one exception, all types of reclassifications are permissible. I have already discussed that exception with you in the previous class. Let me remind you, if there is an investment in equity instrument of another entity, it would generally come under FVTPL category. However, an entity can make an irrevocable choice of classifying such financial asset into FVTOCI category. That being an irrevocable choice, you cannot go for reclassification at all. That is the only restriction on reclassification. Other than that, all types of reclassification are permissible. Now friends, before we move ahead in this concept, a very conceptual and a very important point let us discuss first. That is, this reclassification will never happen with equity instruments. That means whatever reclassification we are talking about, it will never involve any equity instruments. Why? The reason is very clear. Equity instrument will never be classified into amortized cost category, and second, equity instrument will never be even classified in FVTOCI category, except that exception that we have learnt of classifying at the initial recognition time, making that irrevocable choice. But that being an irrevocable choice, anyway later on you cannot reclassify. That is why what I am trying to tell you is, equity instruments will never be reclassified from one category to another category. That means we can be completely assured with one thing, that this concept reclassification is never designed for equity instruments. That is 100% clear fact. Other thing that I should tell you is, as per Ind AS 109, all the reclassifications should be effected only prospectively from the date of reclassification. That means a retrospective effect is not permissible. So if you have classified a financial asset, suppose into amortized cost category, and later on you have shifted that to FVTPL category, the effect should be given prospectively from the date of reclassification. Now one more important point, why there could be a reclassification. So if I eliminate equity instruments and derivative instruments from this discussion, which will never come with reclassification concept, the debt instrument will be primarily those instruments which will be covered over here. So if I talk about why there could be a reclassification need, reason number one, change of business model of the entity. So friends, generally we have seen that contractual cash flow characteristic, if it is there, it will be there till its maturity. Be changed. What can change is the business model of the entity. That means it could be the intention or ability of the entity to hold financial asset, which may undergo a change, because of which the reclassification need will arise. That is why all the calculative examples that I have covered later in regards to this concept of reclassification are all concepts relating to reclassification of debt instrument from one category to another category. So friends, last thing that I would say before I start giving you notes on this is there will be in total 6 types of reclassification. So 6 types of reclassification. Reclassification number 1, it will be from amortized cost category to FVTPL category. Reclassification number 2, it will be from amortized cost category to FVTOCI category. Reclassification number 3, from FVTPL category to amortized cost category. Reclassification number 4, from FVTOCI category to amortized cost category. And the last couple of reclassification will be between the fair value categories, that is from FVTPL category to FVTOCI category and from FVTOCI category to FVTPL category. Now friends, 6 types of reclassifications. To have a complete and clear understanding about how to account for these, we will categorize this into 3 types: type 1, type 2 and type 3. So how do we categorize this? I will talk about that, and when I start dealing with concepts and questions relating to reclassification, you will better understand why are we numbering these as type 1, type 2 and type 3. So let us do one thing, whatever we have discussed, time for us to write notes of the same. So let us write that note: reclassification of financial assets. On reclassification of any financial asset, the entity shall apply reclassification prospectively from the reclassification date. Alright friends, you would have finished writing this line. Let us now write up all the types of reclassification, and all the types of reclassification are broadly classified into 3 types: type 1, type 2 and type 3. So type 1 includes within that 2 types of reclassification, that is number 1, from amortized cost category to FVTPL category, and number 2, from amortized cost category to FVTOCI category. The reclassification type 2 further includes 2, that will be from FVTPL category to amortized cost category and from FVTOCI category to amortized cost category. And the last reclassification type would be the reclassification in between FVTPL and FVTOCI. So that will include further 2, that will be FVTPL category to FVTOCI category and FVTOCI category to FVTPL category. I want you to quickly note down the headings of these 6 types of reclassification, which are broadly categorized as type 1, type 2 and type 3. Let us now discuss about these types of reclassification. To begin with, let us pick type 1. Under each type you have 2 subdivisions, right? So when I say type 1, I would say reclassification from amortized cost category to fair value categories, and those fair value categories could be either FVTPL or FVTOCI. So what is something common in both? That the original classification was made into amortized cost category. That means originally the asset had been classified under amortized cost measurement, and there was an effective interest rate that must have been applied for determining the carrying amount and interest income or finance income. Now, when you are reclassifying, at the reclassification date, the fair value becomes important. So what you need to do is, fair value by far had been ignored, but at the reclassification date and henceforth, it is the fair value that you must consider. So friends, what is something common in both these types, that is under the type 1, both the subdivisions, they have one thing in common, that now you are going to switch over from amortized cost measurement to fair value measurement. So point number 1, the fair value at the date of reclassification will become the new carrying amount, and therefore the existing carrying amount, that is the old carrying amount, and the new carrying amount which represents fair value, obviously these two will be different. If these two are different, you need to identify that difference as gain or loss. The point is very clear. If you are classifying from amortized cost category to FVTPL category, that differential gain loss will be transferred to P&L, and if you are reclassifying from amortized cost category to FVTOCI category, that differential gain loss will not be passed through P&L, it will be routed through other comprehensive income, or in simple words OCI. And henceforth, under both of these reclassifications, what you will do is you will subsequently apply the fair value measurement principles. So let us do one thing, let us write a note about that and then we shall move ahead. Let us write that note about the first type of reclassification, that is from amortized cost category to FVTPL category. If the entity reclassifies a financial asset from amortized cost category to FVTPL category, its fair value is measured at the reclassification date. The fair value becomes the new carrying amount. Subsequently, the financial asset will be measured at fair value. Any gain or loss arising from difference between carrying amount and fair value is recognized through profit or loss. Let us move ahead and write down the notes on the second type of reclassification, that is amortized cost category to FVTOCI category. If the entity reclassifies a financial asset from amortized cost category to FVTOCI category, its fair value at the reclassification date shall be considered as the new carrying amount. Subsequently, the financial asset will be measured at fair value. Difference between the previous carrying amount at amortized cost and the new carrying amount at fair value will be recognized through other comprehensive income. Time for us to get started with questions. Let us take up question number 19. Let us read this question. On 1/4/2014, X Limited purchased 809% bonds in B Limited at rupees 1025 per bond. The face value of the bond was rupees 1000 each. Brokerage and other initial costs were rupees 3200. These bonds are redeemable after 5 years at 10% premium. At the date of acquisition, the business model of X Limited was to hold these bonds till maturity and receive only contractual cash flows. You are required to determine the amount of initial measurement, determine the effective interest rate, determine interest income for each of the 5 years, and determine the carrying value of these bonds at end of each year as per Ind AS 109. So what is observable over here, that the instrument is in the nature of bonds, which is a fixed income security. That means there are contractual cash flows available, and therefore the contractual cash flow test is passed by the instrument. Now the business model of the entity is very clearly given, that X Limited was supposed to hold these bonds till maturity and receive only contractual cash flows. So even the business model of the entity is supporting the amortized cost categorization. As a result, they want you to find initial measurement, which will be fair value plus initial transaction cost, effective interest rate, which can be determined using IRR technique, then interest income for each of the 5 years as per your effective interest rate, and then on the same lines you are also going to compute the carrying amounts at each year end. So let us see how to present the solution. In your solution, you are first going to write a note about classification of financial assets. 9% bonds in B Limited definitely qualify contractual cash flow test. The business model of X Limited is to hold financial assets till maturity and receive only contractual cash flow. As per Ind AS 109, X Limited should classify these bonds under amortized cost category. Therefore, X Limited shall measure these financial assets at amortized cost using effective interest rate. Let us move ahead and now talk about the initial measurement. So, as per Ind AS 109, initial measurement of financial asset in amortized cost category should be at fair value plus initial transaction cost. Such initial measurement will be as determined below, and it will be fair value of the bond, that will be 800 into 1025, and brokerage and other initial expenses will be 3200 added to the fair value. So fair value plus initial transaction cost will make it the initial measurement amount as rupees 8,23,000 200. Let us move ahead and now determine the effective interest rate. Now for this purpose we will have to first determine the present value of the cash flows, and we have started making the trial at 10% discounting rate. So the life of the bond will be 5 years and the annual cash flow in the form of coupon receipts will be 72,000 every year, and the annuity factor at 10% for 5 years comes to 3.790787, and that works out to the present value of 2,72,937. For the 5th year you are going to consider the redemption price, which will be the par value plus 10% premium. Par value is 8 lakh, with 10% premium it becomes 8,80,000, and the PV factor for 5th year at 10% will be 0.620921, which works out to the present value of 5,46,411. Now that is aggregating to 8,19,348. Now one obvious thing is, if this amount, when you observe, this amount is little lower than the initial measurement amount. So because we would want to now have an increased present value, the next trial we are making at a lower discounting rate, because you know one thing, the lower the discounting rate, the higher will be the present value. So because you want to now increase the present value, you are simply lowering the discounting rate. So on making the trial at 9% discounting rate, computed in the same manner, but the cash flow comes to a present value of 8,51,995, which is definitely higher than the amount of initial measurement. So we can conclude that as the amount of initial measurement is lying between these two amounts, the effective interest rate will lie between 10% and 9%. So let us write that concluding line as well, that EIR, that is effective interest rate, lies between 9% and 10%. We will compute that rate using interpolation. Let us move ahead and now apply interpolation technique for measurement of effective interest rate. Now once again I am telling you, I don't have to explain you the base of these calculations, you know it very well. So let us just move ahead and make up these calculations, and the effective interest rate is now computed as 9.88% per annum, and obviously this is an approximate calculation. Friends, I strongly recommend you to do one thing, even though it may take little longer time, but don't just copy the figures, use your calculators and make sure that you also get this calculation. That is important, because somewhere you have to remove your dependency from me. You will have to do these calculations on your own. So now make the calculations, write up the calculations, and then we shall move ahead. Alright friends, you would have finished writing this whole thing. Now let us move ahead and write up the calculations of the interest income and the outstanding balances of investment at each year end using that effective interest rate. So we have been preparing this kind of table all the time. So what you have to do is, you have to start with the initial balance, which will be the amount of initial measurement. You will recognize your interest income at the effective interest rate of 9.88%. That works out to 81,332 in the first year, and the coupon receipts against that is just 72,000. So balance at the end, if you have to find out, what you will do is, to this initial measurement you add your investment income and subtract the amount of coupon receipts that you have obtained. So what you have earned is added and what you have received is subtracted. So whatever is earned but not received will be effectively added to this, and the amount of your financial asset will increase by end of the year to 8,32,532. Like this it will go on increasing year after year, and finally the closing balance at the maturity date, that is at end of 5 years from the date of purchase, it will be a final value matching with the redemption amount. And we know one thing, that redemption amount is the par value plus 10% premium, which works out to 8,80,000. Let us move ahead and take up the next question, that is question number 20. From here actually the question based on reclassification starts. So consider the basic information given in question 19 and assume that on 31/3/2017 X Limited decided to reclassify such bonds from amortized cost category to FVTPL category. Fair value on 31/3/2017 was rupees 8,66,000. Show accounting entries for reclassification. Now what you will have to do is, first of all, go back to what you have solved in question number 19. The last table that you have presented in question number 19, this is not part of your solution over here. I have shown this table once again for your reference. Look at this amount, the third year end amount, which represents the date of 31/3/2017. That is 8,54,053. So if you are reclassifying your financial asset from amortized cost category to FVTPL category, the current carrying amount at the reclassification date is 8,54,053, and you will have to now put it to the fair value on that date, which will become the new carrying amount, and the difference between this amount and that fair value will be recognized in the statement of P&L as a gain or loss. So let us look into what is the fair value and how the solution should be presented. I once again repeat, what you find on screen right now is just a reference back to the solution of question 19. It is not solution to question number 20. Solution to question number 20 begins now. Here you will write, on 31/3/2017 the carrying amount as per amortized cost was rupees 8,54,053. Fair value on the same date was rupees 8,66,000. As per Ind AS 109, the fair value on the date of reclassification shall be the new carrying amount, and difference between old carrying amount and new carrying amount should be recognized in P&L. So here what we find is the fair value is more than the existing carrying amount. As a result, if you change the carrying amount from this to this, you are increasing the value of your financial asset, and that results into a gain which will be transferred to P&L. So the recognition entry that you will pass on the reclassification date will be 9% bond in B Limited debit, and this will be FVTPL category, and the amount by which this is debited is the fair value, which is 8,66,000. And then the existing carrying amount will have to be written off from the amortized cost category, and that is by crediting the 9% bonds in B Limited, that is amortized cost category, 8,54,053, which represents the current carrying amount, and the difference between these two gets transferred to P&L as gain on reclassification, and that amount of gain is 11,947. So friends, notice one thing what is happening, very important feature over here. The entire asset value which will be now recorded as in FVTPL category will be fully debited by 8,66,000, and the current carrying amount of amortized cost category you are going to completely write off by fully crediting this debit balance. As a result, old account has been closed and a new account has been opened. Do not make changes in that existing account. It is closure of the old account and opening of this new account, and the difference between the two has to be offset in the statement of P&L. Let us move ahead and take up the next question, that is question number 21. This is a connecting question to the previous one. Here it says, what will be your answer to question 20 if reclassification was made from amortized cost category to FVTOCI category? So there is just one simple change, that instead of reclassification from amortized cost category to FVTPL category, now we have reclassification from amortized cost category to FVTOCI category. So what will happen? Everything will be same what you have dealt with earlier in question number 20. The only difference is the amount of gain over here will not be recognized in the statement of P&L, but the same will be recognized through other comprehensive income, that is OCI. So you are going to write the similar description over here as well. On 31/3/2017, the carrying amount as per amortized cost was rupees 8,54,053. Fair value on the same date is rupees 8,66,000. As per Ind AS 109, the fair value on the date of reclassification shall be the new carrying amount, and the difference between old carrying amount and new carrying amount should be recognized through other comprehensive income, in short OCI. So similar journal entry will be passed, but here the category what you are placing in the new financial asset will be in the form of financial assets carried over at fair value through other comprehensive income, that is FVTOCI category, and this will be debited by the fair value which becomes the new carrying amount. The old carrying amount which was contained in amortized cost category asset, that entire financial asset will be written off at its existing carrying amount, and the difference between the two will be recognized as gain on reclassification through other comprehensive income, that is OCI, and that gain comes to 11,947. Let us move ahead and now discuss the reclassification type 2, that will be reclassification from FVTPL category to amortized cost category and FVTOCI category to amortized cost category. In these two, let us discuss the first one, that is reclassification from FVTPL category to amortized cost category. So what has to be done? The original classification was under FVTPL category. As a result, till the date of reclassification, the asset has been carried over at its fair value. So now the fair value itself will be the new carrying amount at the reclassification date. So as per Ind AS 109, the fair value at the reclassification date will be the new carrying amount. So it should not be forgotten that the asset is already being carried over at fair value. So on reclassification, there will be no gain or loss that will arise. So you are just going to remove from FVTPL category to now amortized cost category. However, henceforth fair value measurements are not relevant, but henceforth amortized cost to be followed, and for that purpose you will need effective interest rate, and effective interest rate will be determined at the reclassification date and depending upon the remaining maturity period of such financial asset. So let us write a note about that third type of reclassification, that is from FVTPL category to amortized cost category. If the entity reclassifies a financial asset from FVTPL category to amortized cost category, its fair value at the reclassification date will become its carrying amount. Subsequently, the financial asset will be carried over at amortized cost. For this purpose, effective interest rate shall be determined prospectively from the reclassification date for the remaining life of the asset. Let us move ahead and now take up a question of this type. So that is question number 22. Let us read this question. On 1/4/2014, X Limited acquired 3008% bonds in Y Limited having face value of rupees 1000 each at rupees 942 per bond. Initial expenses including brokerage and other transaction costs were rupees 6 per bond. At the time of initial recognition, these bonds were classified in FVTPL category. These bonds were redeemable on 31/3/2025 at par. On 31/3/2019, the carrying amount was its fair value, that is rupees 983 per bond. On this date, X Limited decided to reclassify these bonds in amortized cost category. You are required to show accounting entries for reclassification, determine the effective interest rate and determine the carrying amount on 31/3/2020. So friends, few things let us discuss before we start with the solution part. So what we would say is this was the date of purchase of these bonds and the original classification was made in the FVTPL category. So the important thing is the date of reclassification. So it is 31/3/2019 that the bond was reclassified from FVTPL category to amortized cost category, and this bond was carried over at its fair value because it was originally classified under FVTPL category. Now what you have to do is the fair value at the reclassification date will be the new carrying amount, and it was already the fair value which will be the existing as well as the new carrying amount. That means on the reclassification, the accounting entry what we pass will not reflect any gain or loss on reclassification. However, the bond was redeemable on 31/3/2025 and on 31/3/2019 it got reclassified. So from the reclassification date up to the date of maturity, there is a gap of 6 years. That means the remaining life of the bond is 6 years, based on which you will have to determine the effective interest rate for the purpose of amortized cost measurement. And finally, after the reclassification is made, they are also asking you to determine the carrying amount on 31/3/2020, that is 1 year later. So let us see how to present the solution. In your solution, you would first write there is a reclassification of financial asset from FVTPL category to amortized cost category. As per Ind AS 109, the fair value of the financial asset, that is 3000 multiplied by rupees 983, that is rupees 29,49,000, shall be the new carrying amount on the reclassification date. The asset was already carried at fair value, so no gain or loss will arise on reclassification. So the entry that you will pass on 31/3/2019, that is for the purpose of reclassification, you are simply going to remove from FVTPL category and you are going to create a new financial asset under amortized cost category. So the journal entry will be 8% bond in Y Limited debit, that is the financial asset identified under amortized cost category, and it is recognized at its fair value, that is 29,49,000, and the existing asset which was in the nature of FVTPL category shall be written off. That means the entry that you are passing is 8% bond in Y Limited debit, that is amortized cost category, to 8% bond in Y Limited, that is FVTPL category, same amounts, therefore no gain or loss arises on this reclassification. Let us move ahead and now determine the effective interest rate. For that purpose, you will have to work out the present value calculations for the remaining life of the bond, that will be 6 years, and you will be making trials using some discounting rates. So we have initially attempted 9% as the discounting rate. So for the remaining life of 6 years, whatever be the future cash flows, the present value of the same has been determined using 9% discounting rate. The moment you take aggregate of these two values, the present value what you get is found to be lower than the fair value. As a result, if you would want to match the present value with the fair value, you will have to increase this present value, and to increase the present value, the discounting rate has to be lowered. As a result, if you now try using 8% discounting rate, what you get is a present value of 30 lakhs exactly. Now friends, this was quite obvious, right? Why at 8% you are getting exactly 30 lakhs? Point is very clear. The coupon rate is 8%. The bonds are redeemable at par, and when you are using the same coupon rate as discounting rate, what you will get as present value will be the par value of the bond, that is 30 lakhs. So the fair value of the bond is between these two values. That is a clear evidence that the internal rate of return of this investment or this financial asset or this bond will be between 8% and 9%. So let us work out that rate. Let us move ahead and now determine the effective interest rate, which will be between 8 and 9%. So you know one thing, that if this was the case of initial recognition time, we would have written the initial cost, correct? However, because it is a case of reclassification, we are considering the fair value at the reclassification date as the base of the carrying amount, and therefore we have written fair value over here. So let us substitute all the values and obtain the effective interest rate, which lies between 8% and 9%. So what we finally get is 8.38% approximately. Let us move ahead and make up the last calculation that was demanded in the question. That was the carrying amount on 31/3/2020. So for that, what we do is we get started with the carrying amount on 1/4/2019. That was the opening carrying amount, that is the date of reclassification, or you can say the day immediately after reclassification. So that opening figure will be same as what was there on 31/3/2019. that is the fair value 29,49,000. Because the effective interest rate through which the income has to be recognized is 8.38%, we apply that effective rate on 29,49,000 to obtain 2,47,126 as the interest income. However, the coupon payment received on account of this bond will be just 2,40,000. So what has been earned and what has been received has a difference. So by the amount of that difference, obviously the carrying amount will increase, because we find the closing balance by taking the opening balance plus interest earned minus coupon payment received, and what we get will be 29,56,126. So when you pass an accounting entry for this purpose, you will be recording bank account debit 2,40,000, the amount of coupon payment received, and then the amount by which the difference exists between the interest earned and interest received will be added to the 8% bond value, which will be 7,126 as the differential amount, and aggregate of these two is the finance income that you will recognize, and this income will be transferred to P&L. Let us move ahead and now talk about the next reclassification, that will be from FVTOCI category into amortized cost category. So we are again talking about a situation where there is a reclassification from a previous fair value measurement to a new amortized cost measurement. So some time back we have discussed a reclassification from FVTPL category to amortized cost category. Now it is FVTOCI category into amortized cost category. Most of the points will be similar, but there will be one major difference that you will have to encounter. Let me first discuss all the similar points. Fact number 1, the fair value at the reclassification date will become the new carrying amount for amortized cost measurement. Fact number 2, because the financial asset was originally classified under FVTOCI category, by the date of reclassification, obviously it would have been measured at fair value. That means the old carrying amount before reclassification was also fair value. So old carrying amount fair value, new carrying amount also fair value. So fact number 3, because of the reclassification, there will be no gain or loss that will arise. Now this much is common with the earlier reclassification that we have discussed, that was from FVTPL category to amortized cost category. But here this is little different from this point. What happens, because it is FVTOCI category, any kind of gain or loss that would have arisen due to previous fair value changes must have been accumulated through OCI. That amount you will have to do something with that accumulated amount. So what I am trying to tell you, let me explain by giving an example. Suppose you have acquired a financial asset which was originally classified under FVTOCI category, and assume that the initial measurement was rupees 1 lakh. By the date of reclassification, its fair value is 1,05,000. So from the initial recognition till the date of reclassification, from 1 lakh rupees to 1,05,000, this has increased by rupees 5,000. Because of this increase indicating a gain, this gain must have been accumulated in OCI. This amount has to be dealt with now. Fact number 1, this amount will not be transferred to P&L. This is an accumulated gain. It will not be transferred to P&L as per the requirements of Ind AS 109. So what should be done with this accumulated balance? If it cannot be transferred to P&L, the standard requires that such gain should be reversed. That means, as per requirement of Ind AS 109, the accumulated balance in OCI should be adjusted against the fair value of the same financial asset immediately after the reclassification is made. So once you have made the reclassification, your financial asset is appearing at its fair value of 1,05,000. Correct? Now there is a credit balance in OCI with an amount of rupees 5,000. You would debit OCI and credit your financial asset. doing that, you are actually reversing the effect of the previously accumulated gain. The moment you reverse it, you will bring back your financial asset at rupees 1 lakh in that example. That means the moment you do this reversal thing, whatever gain has been accumulated, you are reversing. So you will bring back the financial asset at its initial measurement amount. So friends, please take precaution while dealing with this type of reclassification. I would just summarize what I have discussed. We will also write the note on this. We will also take up a calculative example on this. But I told you, keep patience with this type of reclassification. Many students go wrong with the treatment of the same. So once again, I am telling you what has to be done. Fact number 1, the fair value at the date of reclassification will become the new carrying amount. Second fact, the asset was already carried at fair value, therefore on reclassification, old carrying amount and new carrying amount will be same. Fact number 3, there will be no gain or loss arising on reclassification. Fact number 4, there must have been some accumulated balance of gain or loss in OCI. Fact number 5, that balance of OCI cannot be transferred to P&L. And lastly, that accumulated balance will be adjusted against the fair value of that asset immediately after reclassification. So once you make the reclassification entry, you are going to write off the accumulated balance in OCI against this fair value of financial asset. Once you do all that, you have brought back the financial asset at its initial measurement amount, and thereafter one more thing will be required, that is, you will work out effective interest rate for the remaining life of the bond. Mind it, we cannot give a retrospective effect. We have to effect all the reclassifications prospectively from that date of reclassification. So friends, you will have much better understanding once you write down the notes and you also take up a calculative example after that. So let us write some notes on this. So based on what we have just discussed, if the entity reclassifies financial asset from FVTOCI category to amortized cost category, the fair value at reclassification date will be the new carrying amount. Subsequent measurement of such financial asset will be as per amortized cost method. The accumulated balance in OCI relating to such financial asset before reclassification shall be removed from equity and adjusted against the fair value of financial asset at reclassification date. As a result, the financial asset is measured at reclassification date as if it had always been measured at amortized cost. Let us move ahead and now write an important note in this regard. So it is clear that when there is reclassification from FVTOCI to amortized cost category, the accumulated balance of gain or loss will be reversed on the date of reclassification against the fair value of such financial asset. The adjusted value after the reversal will be obviously the same amount recognized during initial measurement. Let us move ahead and take up a question of this type, that is question number 23. Let us read this question. On 1/4/2014, X Limited acquired 3008% bonds in Y Limited having face value of ₹1000 each at ₹942 per bond. Initial expenses including brokerage and other transaction costs were ₹6 per bond. At the time of initial recognition, these bonds were classified in FVTOCI category. These bonds were redeemable on 31/3/2025. On 31/3/2019, the carrying amount was its fair value, that is ₹983 per bond. On this date, X Limited decided to reclassify these bonds in amortized cost category. You are required to show accounting entries for reclassification, determine the effective interest rate and determine the carrying amount on 31/3/2020. So friends, if you can see, this question is exactly similar to question number 22, what we have solved some time back, with one major difference, that the initial classification of this asset in question number 22, we have seen that it was done in FVTPL category, and now this is FVTOCI category where the initial recognition was made. and now there is a reclassification from FVTOCI category to amortized cost category. So first of all, because it is carried over at FVTOCI category, it must be carried over at fair value, correct? That fair value will be the new carrying amount based on amortized cost category, and therefore at the reclassification date, whatever be the balance of FVTOCI category financial asset, now the same will be transferred to amortized cost category. That means there will be no difference arising in the form of gain or loss on reclassification of this financial asset. So let us write up the answer first to this part, and then we will also deal with this effective interest rate, and most importantly how to adjust the fair value against the accumulated balance in OCI. That is the most important feature of this variety of question. So let us move ahead and now write up the early part of the solution. On 1/4/2014, initial measurement and recognition for FVTOCI category must have been made at fair value plus initial transaction cost. So it will be 942 plus 6 multiplied by 3000 bonds, and that comes to 28,44,000. As on 31/3/2019, the fair value of such bond will be 3000 multiplied by rupees 983, that is rupees 29,49,000. So now one thing to be noted, that right from the initial measurement up to the date of reclassification, this asset was held in this category, that is FVTOCI category, and as per FVTOCI category, the financial asset will be carried over at fair value. That means by this date the asset must have been brought to its fair value, that is 29,49,000, which is higher than the amount of initial measurement. So the difference between these two amounts, which will be accumulated gain for all these years, must have been accumulated in OCI. So write the next line, that is, it is obvious that difference between fair value on 31/3/2019 and initial measurement, that is rupees 1,05,000, difference between these two must have been accumulated in OCI as a gain. Let us move ahead and write up the reclassification entry. As per Ind AS 109, for reclassification from FVTOCI to amortized cost category, the new carrying amount shall be the fair value on the reclassification date, that is rupees 29,49,000. So reclassification entry, I don't have to explain you again, you know it. You will be simply writing 8% bonds in Y Limited debit, that is amortized cost category, 29,49,000, to 8% bonds in Y Limited FVTOCI category. So one asset recognized and another asset derecognized by the same amount, so no gain or loss arises on this reclassification. Let us move ahead and now deal with the accumulated balance in OCI at the reclassification date. As per Ind AS 109, the accumulated balance in OCI, that is rupees 1,05,000, shall not be transferred to profit and loss. Such balance will be adjusted against new carrying amount, that is to say adjusted against fair value by passing the following entry. So you will debit OCI account, because this was a gain accumulated in OCI which you are removing from there and adjusting against the fair value of the bond. So now you are going to credit that same account which you just debited some time back. So that is to 8% bond account, that will be amortized cost category, and that is 1,05,000. By passing this entry, what you have done is you have brought the financial asset at its original initial measurement, and that is 28,44,000. Let us move ahead and now determine the effective interest rate, and for that purpose what you have to do, I don't have to explain you again and again. Remaining life of the bond is 6 years, so what you are going to do is discount the future cash flows of the bond for 6 years at the discounting rate, which will be an assumptive discounting rate. We have started a trial with 9%, and what we get finally as present value is 28,65,422. Now please pay attention to one thing very important. Previous question we have tried to bring this at par with the fair value. This time we will not bring it at par with fair value of 29,49,000. We will instead bring it at its adjusted fair value after adjusting the balance of OCI, which was back to the initial measurement amount of 28,44,000. So if you want to bring it back to 28,44,000, you need to reduce this present value, and for that purpose the discounting rate has to be increased. That is why the next trial has been made at 10%. So when you apply 10% discounting rate, the present value what you get is 27,38,685. So what we can now conclude is the adjusted fair value, which is equal to initial measurement of 28,44,000, is lying between these two amounts. That means the effective interest rate must be between 9% and 10%. Let us move ahead and now write up the calculation of effective interest rate, which would lie between 9% and 10%. So don't forget one thing in this calculation, that here instead of fair value we are taking the adjusted fair value, which will be 28,44,000, and otherwise the calculation base you know very well, so I don't have to explain you again and again. So the calculation results into effective interest rate of 9.17% approximately. And now make that last calculation needed in the question, that was to find the carrying amount on 31/3/2020. Very simple task. What you will do is you will start with the balance on 1/4/2019, which is nothing but the adjusted fair value, which was the carrying amount at 31/3/2019. Okay, that means after reclassification the adjusted fair value was 28,44,000, and then on that you are going to recognize interest income at 9.17%, which comes to 2,60,795. The coupon payment that you have received is 2,40,000. Difference between these two will be added to this amount to arrive at the closing balance, and that closing balance comes to 28,64,795. Let us move ahead and now discuss the last reclassification type, that is type 3. That would be reclassification from FVTPL category to FVTOCI category, or reclassification from FVTOCI category to FVTPL category. So let me tell you one thing, this is the easiest type of classification from accounting perspective, because earlier it was measured at fair value. I mean, the financial asset was earlier measured at fair value. Later on, even after reclassification, it will be at fair value. So the measurement principle will continue to be fair value. Just a little change. If it is a reclassification from FVTPL category to FVTOCI category, you just need to do one thing. Till date, all the fair value changes were recognized through P&L. Now onward, prospectively, the gain loss will not be transferred to P&L, but will be recognized through OCI. That's all. Only prospective effect. When it is the other type of reclassification, that is from FVTOCI category to FVTPL category, then earlier all the gain losses were accumulated through OCI. Now onwards, all the gain losses will be recognized through P&L. There is just one point that you need to understand in this second part, that is what will happen to the accumulated balance, the already accumulated balance in OCI. The already accumulated balance in OCI will also be transferred to P&L, because finally you have brought the asset into FVTPL category. So all accumulated gain losses will also be transferred to P&L. In simple words, if it is a reclassification from FVTOCI category to FVTPL category, then the fair value measurement continues. Now onward you will stop accumulating the gain or loss to OCI and start recognizing it through P&L, and the already accumulated balance of OCI will simply be transferred to P&L. So let us do one thing, friends. Let us write a note in this regard, and once you finish writing the note, it will be end of this session. So based on what we have discussed, if the entity reclassifies a financial asset from FVTPL category to FVTOCI category, the financial asset continues to be measured at fair value. After the reclassification, changes in fair value should be accumulated in OCI. Let us write one more note about the last type of reclassification, that is from FVTOCI category to FVTPL category. if the entity reclassifies a financial asset from FVTOCI category to FVTPL category, the financial asset continues to be measured at fair value. Subsequent changes in fair value shall be recognized through profit and loss. The accumulated balance of gain or loss on the date of reclassification shall be transferred from OCI to profit and loss.